Trent looked with some trepidation at the cave opening. Part of the trepidation came from leaving Luke and Adam high and dry on intel as they were trying to chase after the Hodag. In truth, Trent had used the drone to pursue the Hodag himself in the hopes of finding out more about it, which might help to reveal what was actually killing and harming the good people of Three Lakes. However, some of the trepidation also came from the fact that there was not a lot known about the Hodags aside from tall tales, and if Trent went into the cave and inadvertently cornered the Hodag, the creature might lash out like any trapped animal would, and the last thing he needed was to give Luke ammo to further hunt down the creature. Using the potion he made now would lead Trent to the true monster, but without backup from Luke and Adam, he might as well wear a sign that read, "Eat me, I'm yummy." More hesitation? Sylvia appeared beside him. "You know you have to find out the truth." "I know I do, but considering I don't know much about the actual nature of Hodags, it's understandable why I don't just run into this cave like a madman." "Running isn't the issue, though. Taking that first step is. You have to realize that all the times you've been out in the field with your husbands, that you have to make a move in order to achieve anything. That's just it. I'm usually out with one or both of them, but right now it's me all alone, unless I count my transparent yet not so transparent grandmother. I'm just a little worried that the Hodag might not appreciate company." "You don't know that for sure, though." Trent put his hands on his hips. "True, but I'm not exactly ready to join you in the afterlife. So you might understand why I'm not ready to willingly go trespassing into somebody's home, no matter how gentle or cuddly some folks in the community claim this individual is." "So, do you just plan to stand out here and wait until the Hodag decides to venture forth? For all you know, that could be days, even weeks. By then, your husbands will find you, and then how are you going to explain why you went chasing after the Hodag by yourself without including them? Do you at least have some safety suggestions? I didn't think to grab a flashlight or anything like that. Even if the Hodag doesn't maul me, I don't want to trip and fall down a chasm." Sylvia chuckled. "I do have a spell that generates a little ball of light that can travel with you for a short period of time. I mean, assuming you're ready for that level of magic." "Tell me the spell. And if you're just going to be a sarcastic sidekick, you can just go back up on the cloud you're spending eternity on and play canasta with your friends." "Lovely age joke, dear. Tell me, do you kiss your husbands with that mouth?" "Oh, I do more than that. In fact, some of the things I do to my husband with this mouth would curl your hair. So, what's the spell?" Sylvia cleared her throat. "Dawning day, fading night, guide my way with an orb of light." Trent did a double take. "That's it?" "Yes, that's it. Did you expect a long incantation with Latin, Hebrew, and ancient Sumerian mixed in, culminating in a snake being expelled from one of your ears? Now, say the words." Trent sighed and cleared his throat. "Dawning day, fading night, guide my way with an orb of light." Once he finished saying the words, a bright ball of light formed in front of him and floated to the cave's entrance. It stayed in place, dimming and brightening as though it was waiting for Trent to make a move. Trent was rooted to the spot, not for fear of the Hodag anymore, but more out of surprise that he created light out of thin air. While he realized he had magical abilities, to actually put them to use was still something he needed to get used to. "So, Trent, you've got your light to guide you. Is there anything else holding you back?" Trent zipped up his jacket, like that was going to make a difference if he ran into something in the cave, and stepped forward, still cautiously, but no longer feeling the need to run away. Part of him was eager to meet the new creature, but part of him still wondered if he wasn't being like some idiot crawling over a zoo barrier to pet a wild tiger. It would likely turn out the same way, with the Hodag slicing his frail human body badly, and Luke having to play the role of the zoo employee that puts it down permanently. As Trent stepped into the cave, the light moved forward, illuminating more of the passageway. He glanced behind him to see if Sylvia was coming along, possibly to be more cryptic or sarcastic. However, his grandmother had pulled another disappearing act that would make any magician envious. He made a mental note to look at Sylvia's book of spells when he returned to the house to see if there was a spell that would keep a ghostly spirit from flitting off at random, as he still had plenty of questions about his newly discovered powers and about the forces of magic in general. For now, though, he needed to focus on finding the Hodag, along with the truth about what had been going on in Three Lakes in recent weeks. The cave was certainly spacious. Trent's continued foray showed that something big could easily come into it without difficulty. It also gave Trent to maneuver if his fears were justified, and he had to become agile to avoid claws or teeth. Maybe it was the conditioning he'd gone through with Luke and Adam during their various hunts. but he'd learned to believe that most undiscovered places had threats until proven otherwise. However, that belief was in conflict with what Sylvia had told him about the Hodags and how they were actually gentle creatures. As much as Trent loved his husbands and the adventures they went on, he wondered if there was so much of the supernatural world left to be discovered and studied, maybe integrated. Trent noticed that it was getting lighter up ahead. The orb of light he'd created was still burning bright, but it was not contrasting as much with the darkness of the cave. Was he coming to another exit to the surface? If the Hodag had just used the cave as a tunnel to another part of the woods surrounding Three Lakes, Trent was really going to kick himself for being so hesitant. It wasn't the surface, though. It was still part of the cave, but there was light shining down from a distant hole at the top. Maybe it was another entryway from atop some hill, but he would have needed climbing equipment to ascertain that. That was a minor curiosity compared to what he saw in the clearing. There had to be at least a dozen Hodags meandering about, with a couple of others appearing to nap on boulders, and several more that seemed to be chasing each other around in a circle. Some of them were a deep forest green like the one that had been spotted in the field across from the town hall. However, others were a deep red, almost like they could blend in with sandstone, and a couple of them were blue in color, as though they become invisible in a lake or river. Trent let out a giggle as the realization that there were multiple Hodags in existence set in. All the tall tales and legends cast aside, there appeared to be a colony or a civilization, or Trent had no way to describe the grouping of Hodags he saw right now. It was like he'd left his world behind and stepped into another, a fantastic, fantasy-laden realm where the old rules of life no longer seemed to apply and there were endless things to discover. However, Trent's giggle caused all the discoveries to look up in fright as though a fox had been allowed into a henhouse. Many of the Hodags started running in all directions, with a couple of them freezing like a deer in headlights, unsure where to run. Trent jumped on top of a nearby boulder for fear of being trampled. If one of these creatures was killing innocent people, it was obviously an aberration of what he was seeing now. These Hodags didn't look like they could try to harm anything intentionally, although Trent was still seeing fearful flashes of his body being found in a state similar to cookie dough after being shaped by a rolling pin. A couple of the fleeing Hodags were getting close to where Trent was perched. He once had to jump up to avoid a long tail whipped in his direction. Okay, maybe this wasn't such a good idea, he said aloud, as if he thought the creatures could understand what he was saying. But considering the creatures were not uttering any growls, cries, screams, or other sounds that might exist in nature, that seemed a little far-fetched. Stop! Trent's jaw dropped as he whipped his head around to see where that exclamatory word came from. Less than 10 feet away was the Hodag that he and his husband saw in the field. It was no longer on all fours. It was hunched on its hind legs with its front paws, or whatever you'd call those things, spread out in a sign that was urging calm. As Trent turned back to view the rest of the clearing, he saw the other Hodags stop scrambling and were looking at the Hodag nearby with a sort of awe and reverence, begging the question, did a Hodag just speak like a person? Hello there. We've been expecting you.